Good morning. It's good to be here. I was going to give this talk last week downtown at the meeting, and inadvertently Roger had not recognized that it was tax day, and very few people had signed up to come. So I'm glad to have the opportunity to talk to you this morning. Have you ever realized that your life bears a remarkable resemblance to an orange? That's the orange on your table. You might want to look at it. We see the external packaging. We see the orange rind. But the fact is that inside that orange are many segments. And our lives are the same way. You see me, the external package. I see you, the external package. But inside, we are much more complex. Our lives are made up of many segments. And usually, if we're smart, we take care of two segments in particular. And that is our career, given the economy and the job situation, particularly in Oregon. But we take care of our career and we take care of our finances. But there are many other segments in our lives that perhaps we don't even stop to think about. And that's what I want to talk about this morning. 4 areas that are on your handout where we need to pay attention and take care of ourselves. And that is our physical well-being, our intellectual well-being, our emotional well-being, and our spiritual well-being. And so some of these things you might think about and be very involved in, and others perhaps never really cross your radar screen. But that's what we're going to cover today. Unlike an orange, we are never fully formed. At a certain point, the pickers go around the groves and take these off the trees. And here they are. They can never change, grow, improve in any way. They're done. But we can. We are not ever fully grown, fully developed. We can always change and grow. And I hope that as a result of this morning's talk, that will get you thinking about areas where you might want to grow and change and see some good things happen in your life. Now, in his global bestseller, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey stressed the importance of a strategic principle, which is to begin with the end in view. Now, that doesn't just apply to business. It also applies to our personal lives. Do we ever stop and think about the end of our lives and who we want to be? And when we take a long-range look at our lives, we need to ask some essential questions. Now, they're not on your handout. There's plenty of information on your handout. But I just want to give you these questions that you might want to think about. First of all, at the end of my life, what do I want to be true of me? What kind of person do I want to become and be at the end of my life? And you know, as friends have told me, watching relatives age, that often they're just a more concentrated version of what they were in their midlife, say. And if they're bitter, if they're cynical, if they look at things in a negative way, they become more like that. But if they look at life with joy and with a positive attitude and are proactive, even into old age, they are going to have those same attitudes. So that's important. At the end of your life, what do you want to be true of you? What kind of person do you want to be? And then Covey, in saying, you know, begin with the end in view, you want to begin and ask yourself, what do I want to invest my life in? What's really important to me? And what changes might be necessary to accomplish what I say is important to me? Because we all know how easy it is to say, this is who I want to be, this is what I want to accomplish. But unless we start moving in that direction, we're going to come to the end and look back and say, I didn't follow that. That isn't what happened. So it's easy to live at such a pace that we never pay attention to these kind of issues. But I hope today's presentation at least stimulates you, and the handout, which you can take and look through, helps you begin to think about your life. Now, to help begin this process, and some of you are sitting alone, you might have to go join someone, but I'd really like you to talk for a few minutes at your tables. And there are 2 questions on your handout. I think we need more handouts up here. Thank you. But here are the two questions, and just briefly answer these two. What makes you feel fully alive? That's the positive, what gives you joy and excitement. And the other, what stresses you out? So go to it at your tables, just share those two things very briefly, and then we'll move on. Well, I'm going to plow ahead. I know that you could probably spend quite a bit of time talking about that, but let's move on. Would you look at your covenant of care that is on your handout? Let's begin looking at the physical well-being. It seems every magazine and newspaper has articles about taking care of ourselves physically. And they promise all sorts of things, like do this for 6 weeks and you will lose 10 pounds. Somehow, after 1 week, many of us find it hard to continue, so we never see the end of those 10 pounds. We're told to stretch, to jog, to run, to lift weights. We're told to get our blood pressure checked and other parts of our body as we get older. There are places along the way that we're supposed to get this checked and that checked and the other checked. And we're told, take care of your body, don't forget to floss, don't eat red meat, drink red wine, eat plenty of fruits and veg and protein, but don't overeat, don't smoke, don't do drugs. And now the Oregon Public Health Division has issued a bulletin called Sleepless in Oregon. And it said that everyone needs, for their health, because we know about the diet and the exercise, but sleep, they're discovering more and more, is an essential component of good health. And they're saying in this research that everyone needs at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night on a regular basis. But the average, apparently, for many people is like 6 hours. But they say that having plenty of sleep just not only makes you healthy, wealthy, and wise, or it might make you healthy, wealthy, and wise, but it also helps combat obesity, diabetes, heart disease, depression, and other illnesses. So sleep, as I said, they're discovering sleep is a vital component of taking care of our health. And in a recent survey, it showed that 26% of the US population gets less than the average. Their average is about 6 hours a night, and then another 20% report inadequate sleep, and that's probably common for many of us. Nationally, drowsiness, because this is the outcome of not having adequate sleep, our accidents, 40,000 a year, are attributed to drowsiness in America, and 15,000 deaths per year. 1,500 deaths, because we don't get enough sleep. So there's a message in terms of taking care of our bodies. All this advice on taking care of ourselves physically can be overwhelming. It seems like there's just an avalanche of information, and we can easily tune it out and not apply it. But have you ever thought about why? Why do I need to take care of my body? Well, I think the answer is clear. We're only issued it one time. There's no new version coming out like the smartphones and other things, so we trade in the old one and get a new one. Now, they are increasingly having spare parts. I mean, you can get a hip replacement, a knee replacement, heart valve replacement, and so on. But the bottom line is we're given one body for one time, and we need to take care of it if we're smart. So let me just say this. If you're working like crazy and you're expending all your energies on work demands and other aspects of life, you really might want to think about what that pace of life is doing to your physical health. Because our bodies need to have times of rest, to be re-energized, and to take a break. And on your handout, you'll see I've put a few comments there that you can think about and evaluate where you are in your life and where you want to be at the end in terms of taking care of yourself. And as I said earlier, the question is what changes are needed now, because the longer we wait, the harder it is to see those things and have effects reversed. Okay, the second area in taking care of ourselves is intellectually. Let me ask you this. Are you continuing to learn? I think as you work in your workplace, it's an essential. Of course you're continuing to learn. You have to in order to hold your job and to move up the ladder. There are incredible changes, as we all know, in technology and in knowledge. And it's vital that we continue to grow. Whatever our work is, we need to keep growing intellectually. Otherwise, our skills and our knowledge become obsolete. And we become obsolete in terms of being a useful employee. The same principle applies to businesses. If they don't continually train their people and teach them, they quickly slide into obsolescence. They become out of date with their products or their way of managing things. Taking care of yourself intellectually is more than just keeping up with your work, though. It's also a personal thing that is needed in our lives because it enriches and expands our lives, and we, instead of stagnating, we don't lose our edge, we grow, and instead of living in the past, we know what's going on currently. And so it's important that we take classes, that we read books, that we expand our knowledge and enrich our lives, not just professionally, but in terms of who we are. And we're surrounded with an overload almost of information. There is knowledge available in every form, from the old-fashioned printed books to audio books, to the iPad, to Kindle, to computers and webinars and blogs and on and on and on. There's no reason that we cannot expand our knowledge in things. So continuing to learn is an important aspect of taking care of yourself and expanding and becoming more capable and becoming a more interesting person. And so whatever your interest is outside of work, I would encourage you to expand your knowledge by looking at what is happening in the world of science or technology or culture or psychology or theology or any other ology that interests you. But it will make you a more interesting person, and it will enrich your life, and people will enjoy being around you because you're fun to talk to. So don't shut down. Go home from work and shut down and say, I've done enough learning. I did all that at work. Now just let me veg in front of the TV, unless the TV's on a channel where you're going to learn something. So taking care of ourselves physically and intellectually is really important. Now, the third area is that of our emotional health. When Regina Brett turned 90, she lived in Ohio, she looked back over her life and she wrote down 45 lessons that life had taught her. I'm not giving you all 45, but here are 7 that I want to read to you. First of all, she says, life is too short to waste time hating someone. She's right. We don't have all the time in the world, and it's ridiculous to waste it tied up in knots of hatred. Your job won't take care of you when you are sick. Your friends and family will. So stay in touch. You don't have to win every argument. Agree to disagree. It is a great way to lower your stress if you don't have to win every single discussion and argument you're in. Make peace with your past so it doesn't screw up the present. And if a relationship has to be a secret, ask yourself, what am I doing in it? Number 6, frame every seeming disaster with these words, in 5 years, will this matter? It helps you get perspective. Now, in 5 years, some things will matter, still matter, they do, but many don't. So it's a good way to get perspective. And the last one is, no one is in charge of your happiness but you. Now, women are generally considered to be more in touch with their emotions than men. But men do have emotions. Some men and some women think that men don't. Particularly any of you engineering types. I talk to your wives, women married to engineers, a lot, and it seems to be a struggle. But you do. And you know how I know that men have the same kind of excitable, outgoing emotions as women? Just watch how you act when your team wins. if you're a Blazer fan and they win, I mean, everybody's cheering and high-fiving and they're running around and they're so excited and they might even hug each other. You know, it depends how far you'd like to go. But you're happy and you're cheerful and emotion is flowing. So it's not true that men don't have emotions, or if you've ever told yourself, I'm not the emotional type. It just depends on the situation. So good emotions, healthy emotions are great, but we also have powerfully strong, unhealthy emotions. And these can lead to discouragement, depression, ruined relationships, and even thoughts of suicide. So it's really important that we recognize what's going on for our emotional health. Now, thousands of years ago, there was a highly successful, driven CEO named David. He was actually a king, and he was a king of Israel, and in the Hebrew scriptures, his journal is recorded. And he was a very honest person, and he wrote about the highs and lows of his life. And in one entry, he honestly admitted, I am feeling down, depressed, and miserable. That takes a lot of guts for a man to write that, or to say that, or even to think and acknowledge that that's how he's feeling. But David was in tune with his feelings, and he did something about them. He asked himself several questions, and I've sort of paraphrased them and put them in your handout. These are questions you and I need to ask ourselves when things aren't going well, we're under stress, and we're wondering what's going on. What's the matter with me? Why am I so upset? Why am I feeling like this? What's going on? Now, if you recognize that your emotional reaction to a situation is out of proportion to the situation, it is a clue that something's going on. That perhaps what you have experienced that made you lose your temper or explode or swear at a blue streak or whatever it is, really triggered something down beneath, something maybe from your past, something that has not been resolved. And if that's the case, if it's still filling you with pain and even with a sense of shame, it's something you want to get rid of. Because remember, we're keeping the end in view, and you don't want to end up a bitter person still carrying hatred or resentment or some kind of emotional baggage that is really robbing you of an enjoyable life and rich and enjoyable relationships. So becoming emotionally healthy takes honesty and it takes courage. It isn't easy to acknowledge that we're struggling with some powerful feelings that we don't know what to do with. But talking to someone you trust will help you. It'll move you one step towards getting those things dealt with. Because we are human beings. We are not just machines. And we are made with emotions. And even though, depending on your personality and sometimes your gender, you might suppress those and push them down, it does not mean you don't have them. And so as you look at your emotional health, you want to be paying attention to that. And I just want to say, if you want to talk to someone and you don't have someone that you can talk to in confidence, I know there are both men and women here, including myself, of course, who are available to listen and talk with you. So in our last segment, we're going to look at our spiritual health. In today's culture, the word spiritual or spirituality, it means anything. People say, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. Others will say, I'm into finding my inner god or goddess, depending on your gender. Many people practice yoga. It's everywhere. And I remember once taking a yoga class, and it was exercising, and you have to balance on your hand. And I ended up spraining my thumb, and that was the last I ever went to a yoga class, because I thought, I'm just too much of a klutz to do this kind of thing, and I can't twist myself into a pretzel. So that's considered a spiritual practice by some. Others meditate, and they want to commune with nature. They go to the beach, they go to the mountains, they hike, they sit outside. People center, meaning they sit there and they try and get rid of all other distractions and and again, for many, it's a de-stressing exercise. So they sit there trying to empty their minds and focus on their breathing because it helps physically for some. So there's all these various things. Some say a mantra, repeating something over and over while sitting in, I think, the lotus position. Others pay it forward, thinking that if they do good things for someone, they will have good karma, which, because they believe in reincarnation, which is a Buddhist and Hindu idea that many people believe in, that they then, when they are back again on the earth, they will have a better, more favorable position. So there's lots of things that go under the title spiritual and spirituality. And today that can be any ancient or new belief system and practice. And in America, and probably in the rest of the West, somebody's always clever enough to commercialize any of those things and make a mint on their followers. Now, the interest in all these things affirms something that a French mathematician and scientist said, Blaise Pascal, who lived in the 1600s. He said this, and I think it's on your sheet. His conviction was, there is a God-shaped vacuum in the heart of every person, and it cannot be filled by any created thing, but only by God. And looking around at the phenomenal interest in everything that's tagged spiritual, I have to agree. There is an inner desire for something more, a growing awareness and belief that even in our technological age, interestingly enough, that we are aware that we are more than physical beings. People sense there is something more, something deeper, and something intensely important to the very fact of being human. There is something unique about being human. And many people, and perhaps some of you here, are looking for meaning. They are looking for a sense of purpose beyond climbing the career ladder and accumulating more and more things. As a person of faith myself, I've found that my belief in God has brought me a sense of meaning for my life and inner peace, both now and as I look down the road with the end in view. So again, in your handout under the spiritual health section of that covenant of care, you'll find questions that perhaps will stir you to think as you think about where am I now, where do I want to be, and what changes or things do I need to pursue to get to where and who I want to become. Well, we've covered a lot of material this morning very fast, but if you apply even some of this information in any of those sections or all of them, your life will change. It will become better. Maybe not immediately, but with time. So let me run through those again. Take care of yourself physically. It really does matter for your well-being. Secondly, take care of yourself intellectually. It will expand and enrich your life beyond what you're learning at work. Thirdly, take care of yourself emotionally. Don't let the stress and the difficulties, the personal struggles that you've had or are having rob you of a good life, an enjoyable life, and life-enhancing relationships. And fourthly, take care of your spiritual health. There is more to life than career success and accumulating lots and lots of toys, which, let's face it, in the end, we all have to leave behind. Thank you.
We have time for a couple of questions this morning, and I'm just going to repeat them for the recording. So the question is, with your busy life, which of these is your greatest challenge, and what have you done to overcome it?
Well, I do try to fire on 4 cylinders on the 4 that I mentioned. I try to get to the gym several times a week, but I do let, probably like many people here, I do let my deadlines override getting there. 2 nights, I've been working on something plus this week, and 2 nights at 7:45 at night, I went for a half-hour walk just because I haven't been able to get to the gym. So I would say I'm really cognizant of all 4 and trying to implement all 4 in my life.
Was this a gradual process of coming to realize these 4 things, or was there an epiphany?
No, I don't think so. I think realizing, as you go on and you gather information, or like in the physical and the intellectual, I've always been a learner and a reader, so I find that stimulating. Physically, I used to carry a lot more weight and didn't pay attention to taking care of that. Then I inherited my mother's diabetes, and then it was a wake-up call to take that more seriously. The emotional, I think it's something ongoing for decades, ever since I got married. Then you discover that you have all sorts of issues that you didn't know you had before. And so in order to be healthy, you start dealing with them. I didn't want to stay stuck in bitterness and resentment. And my husband and I have been married many decades, and we've both grown and changed a great deal for the good. And then spiritually, that's been an ongoing uncovering of knowledge and relationship with God.
Who do you use to keep you accountable to be balanced?
Because of my going to the George Fox Seminary, we were required to meet with a spiritual director, which is what I also do now, once a month. And I have kept on meeting with her, so that I have somebody, as well as friends, who can be honest with me, which I like. I want people to be honest with me who are close and see things I need to look at.
How do you suggest that people in general find someone to help with that?
I think you have to find someone you respect, someone you trust, someone who will hold things in confidence. You might have someone at work who is like that, or maybe you just rather keep it out of the workplace. In which case you can ask Roger and his wife Claudia here, who have contacts with people. You could call, it depends on what your faith base is or your personal belief system is, as to who you would go to. I don't think we necessarily need to see a professional counselor if we are not dealing with issues, although everybody has issues to one degree or another. But finding someone who will listen. So it would be, someone, like myself or many others like me, whose work and passion and calling is to sit with people and listen and encourage and help. Or even a life coach. It depends what you're looking for.
What would you suggest as a first step on implementing these?
I think it depends on, I think you need to reflect on this, which is why I hope the handout is helpful. But I think you need to reflect, what is the greatest need in my life at this moment? I mean, some of you might feel that physically you need to just get a grip and deal with things. Make a doctor's appointment. I mean, I don't want to ask for hands up, but how many of you have had a checkup know what your blood pressure is and various other things? So maybe you've got some sort of symptoms going on and you think, okay, my first step is to make an appointment, go get a checkup. Some of you might recognize there is emotional stuff going on in me and I keep shoving it down, but it's coming up, it's popping up. It does. You can't, it's like a balloon in a swimming pool. You keep pushing it down, an inflated balloon, but somewhere when you're not expecting it, it pops up. So maybe you're recognizing there's some emotional issues that you've shoved under the rug and need to be dealt with. Maybe you're starting to think, what is life all about? Is there a God? Is there a belief system I need to look into and follow? And others of you might feel, I really am stagnating. I go home and I sit in front of the TV or the computer or whatever it is you do, and you think, you know what, I've lost my edge. I need to know what's going on in certain areas. So I think it's very individual.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.